Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Black Eel Podcast. I'm your host, Scott, and to my other side is Mike, the co-host. So
He has
we are
tidies on.
we are going to be talking about a lot today. Even though it might not seem like as much as we normally talk about, there is going to be a lot of discussion for all these topics. So first, we're going to be starting off with Star Wars because Ahsoka has finally come out, and we are talking about the very first two episodes and what we think of it and where we think it's going to go from there. Then we're going to move on to the next two episodes of My Adventures with Superman. And then we will be talking very briefly, because only one of us watched Blue Beetle. We'll talk about it very briefly. Just basic overview of how I felt of it and where I think it's going to go in the future. Then we move on to Marvel, where I have a little bit of a game for Mike. We're going to see if he can guess the universe by just its number. I promise you he'll get them all wrong, but it's going to be entertaining for me.
100%.
So,
Spoilers alert.
yeah, 100% spoilers ahead. He's not going to get any of them. There's only one he has the potential of getting. The rest, if he does, it's sheer luck.
Oh, you're
Um,
giving me a lot of credit with that one.
well, when I tell you what it is later, you're going to be like, oh, that is the only one I would have known. So just so
Okay.
you're aware of that. And then, as always, we end with a character spotlight from each of us. So we're going to dive right into Ahsoka. We're not going to go into great detail like we used to in the past of like talking about the details of the episode. I want us to talk about more of like how we felt about it. For me, the first both episodes were really good. Uh, I don't know what I was expecting, but there was a lot that's happened since Rebels.
It's been a long time.
So here's the thing, like I understand that it's been a long time, but I think one of the biggest things so Hera being a general does not surprise me because I think she was a general before we left, correct?
Yes, they said that when at the last episode of Rebels, she became a general.
That's what I
So
thought. So, she hasn't moved up, so that's a whole nother issue. Um, I don't know what's higher than it, I'm not gonna lie to you. So,
general is the highest.
well, I'm sorry, there's a lot of other things in the Empire. Who knows with the Republic? There could be higher ones than that. Supreme Chancellor? We don't know, right? I mean, I know that's.
I mean,
I know
I
that's,
guess
but that's an old thing. But
they went
anyway,
through it once. Do you think they're gonna go through it again? Yes.
ah, please, it's a cycle. We all know it. They go through it over and over and over again. But the big thing for me was actually Sabine being trained as a Jedi.
Yes. That is very interesting.
But here's
I've
my
heard there were
question:
a lot.
Did you think she was being trained as a Jedi or just trained in the ways of the Force? Because those are two very different things.
I'm wondering if they are using the term Jedi as just as like a protector of the peace, because that's technically what Jedi are,
Well,
protectors of the
what they were
peace.
supposed to be.
Yes. So I'm wondering if she's just using a lightsaber because of her training as a Mandalorian. She has an extensive weapon training, and she has Ezra's lightsaber that they're just going to be calling her a Jedi because she wants to be protect or at least wanted to be a protector of the peace.
Padawan.
I don't. Huh?
Isn't she called a Padawan
Yes, a
or
Padawan.
apprentice?
A Padawan. Well,
Yep.
no, Padawan. Padawan is seems to be associated with
No,
Jedi
I
and
know, but I'm just
apprentice.
trying to remember the terminology they used in the show.
Padawan for Ahsoka, apprentice for the dark side user.
No, no, that's fine. But you understand what I'm getting at. I just wanted to make sure because
Yeah.
I heard both. Um,
Yep. So I'm wondering if they are going to be, just she's going to be trained in the lightsaber combat and like as the Jedi, because Ahsoka is very level-headed and one of the most like down-to-earth Jedi that there were at the time.
mhm.
So
And
I'm
especially
wondering,
now.
yeah. So I'm wondering if they're using just her as like just to help train her process and help her master her mental stability, and then like I said, then just calling her Jedi in that terms, um, because we never had any hint of her being a Jedi in Rebels, which I know one of the rumors going into the show was that with her using the lightsaber, they were like, oh, is she becoming a Jedi? And I know we talked about it before too. It was
Yeah.
like did we know that she was light force sensitive? And I know you had said it, and I've been hearing it a lot that because she's Mandalorian, she was suppressing her force sensitive abilities because of just her own training as a Mandalorian.
Correct. And the other thing too is there's only ever been one actual Mandalorian Jedi.
Yes, and that was the
I mean,
dark
to our
saber.
knowledge, anyway.
To our
That's the
knowledge,
only
yes.
one
And
that's
that,
been known.
yeah,
That does not mean that there weren't more either in the past or unknown. But for the most part, there was only one, which is where the dark saber comes from.
correct. It was a gift. Um,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. For the dark saber, I know I'm going a little off topic here because I know it's destroyed. Um, wasn't that the Mandalorian Jedi's weapon? And then when it was a he, right? That passed. He gave it to
I'm
whoever
assuming it
was in
was.
charge. Whoever was in charge of Mandalore, and then it was a mantle instead of an actual lightsaber.
Yes, correct. It
Okay.
was just a mantle of power and whatever.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's what I mean. Like it wasn't like a gift of the Jedi. It was a gift of that particular Mandalorian who happened to be a Jedi, who then stated, like, and then the lore came after.
well, no, I think it was the dark saber was a gift from the Jedi to the first force sensitive Mandalorian or Jedi Mandalorian, if I'm remembering correctly.
So he didn't get the lightsaber the same way as all the others.
Correct. At least that particular lightsaber. That I know it was a
Okay, okay,
gift.
so not
I
that
don't
particular
remember.
lightsaber.
I don't remember if it was a gift from the Mandalorians to the force sensitive Mandalorian, or if it was a gift from the
Gift from the
Jedi
Jedi.
to the Mandalorian. I don't
Okay.
remember.
No, no,
The only thing I remember for a fact is that it was a gift from one party to the other.
no, that's fine. I just was curious. And then, can we talk about the character that we weren't expecting in this series that came back from Clone Wars? The
Which one
robot?
are you? The robot?
Yeah, the one that made all that helped facilitate all the lightsabers.
The I
The
forgot he
droid.
was in Clone Wars. The droid, the main droid, Ahsoka's droid.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Oh,
now he's the droid.
I didn't remember he was in Clone Wars.
Yeah, yeah, he was in Clone Wars because remember it was during the time where like all the little Padawans, younglings
I know
got
the
their
episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the Wookiee one got his. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like
I didn't correlate the two together.
oh,
So
so yeah, so I was surprised.
makes a lot more sense, and I'm glad it's more touching into the lore that already exists. Then.
I just was surprised he's still around more than
Yeah,
anything. Only
that is
because
true.
with the
This,
order being destroyed and everything
yeah.
else, I just assumed he was destroyed. I
That's
should know
true. I
better.
mean, don't forget, a lot of things survived. You'd be surprised with how much stuff has actually survived that go into hiding or just whatever.
No, and you're absolutely correct. And it probably wasn't a major priority because if you kill all the Jedi, why do you need to kill the droid that makes the
The,
lightsabers?
dro- the droid gets repurposed.
Correct. So definitely was surprised by that, although I did like it. Um,
It was nice.
no, it was. I agree. And then
Um,
we saw a lot of people from Rebels that I was not expecting.
there was a lot
Grant-
going on.
yeah, no, there was a lot going on. For me, granted, I know there was only really one extra person that was shown in from Rebels, which was the governor of Lothal.
Yep. Yep. And I
Um,
loved that touch that it was the same. It's the same actor. I love
okay,
that.
so I was all right. So my whole thing was I was like, he sounds just like him, but I wasn't 1,000 because it's tough because they can get really like creative
Really
with
can.
it. So like I was very concerned on that one, but they did phenomenal.
When I saw, I know the actor and I recognized the voice, and now that I saw him, like it wasn't until I like when I was watching Rebels, I recognized the voice as a well-known actor, and then and when I saw him in Ahsoka, I was like, oh, he's the guy that's playing it. Don't tell me his name because I still will never know his. I don't know
Okay,
his
I don't
name,
have it
but
off the top of my
I
head.
recognize him as a famous actor, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. I'm glad that he came back. I'm glad that he's reprising the role. Um,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I think it's interesting to see the character change from, like, if you remember in Rebels, obviously he was on the run, and he was
He was
hiding
also hands-on. He was very, very much
and very
military.
hands on. But then also, if you remember when reading the Thrawn books, he was making appearances. And in the very beginning, he wasn't he was a very he seemed like a very corrupt governor.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of tough because well, we got that vibe from him in Rebels too.
Be-
We got the vibe from him even though it wasn't actually the case. You know
Oh,
what I'm
because
saying?
like at the end
Well, yeah, because there
when he
was a
was
bunch of
playing,
different things that happened that made it seem like
yeah,
because he was always kind of shady to begin with. Like that was kind of
yeah,
like even in Rebels, he was even though we knew like he was the old former governor, we didn't really know if we could trust him up until literally the very end.
yeah.
And
No,
even
you're right.
then, we weren't sure until it legitimately happened.
hmm It's just interesting, like seeing him go back into office, and
But
like I
also
said,
being a
just seeing
better, what looks like a better leader.
correct. Like I
Um,
said, like in the Thrawn books, he was a corrupt governor, and then going to Rebels, he got after getting turned on by the Empire and going into hiding, and now he's back into power, and hopefully he's not corrupt anymore. But
well, I
we'll
mean, we
see.
don't. I mean, granted, it's not like we saw that much of him, so it's really tough to
No,
tell. But
correct.
I would assume not, only because Sabine's there,
hmm
and she wouldn't
And
allow that.
the other people part of the rebel
Well, I
alliance,
also
and
think too, it looks like he's not. Even though he's the governor, he's not the only one running it. It looks like he almost
yeah,
has like a council. Now, granted, I cannot say that for a fact because it's not like we know their policies or anything like that. But based visually, it looks like he might be the face, but he is not the only one that
yeah.
makes up the people. You know what I'm saying? Which I think probably works better. Um, and I did. How did you like the mural in the back?
I still love it. I love that touch, and I
I
love
did
how
love it.
that I love I love that it adds to it because it makes it seem Sabine is I'm assuming Sabine is the artist,
I would
or the
assume so too.
soul artist because I'm pretty sure we if I remember we knew that she was based off of Rebels, but it was very much her character because she was like very that's her style, and it's the only thing in a live action show that has that animated show feeling
Hmm.
because based off of Rebels. I'm assuming they just took the picture from Rebels and like made it bigger. you know.
So no, it's actually slightly different. I
Oh, it
guess
is.
it didn't transfer perfectly from Rebels to Ahsoka, so it is a little distorted. So the only reason why I say that is because I've seen people put a picture in picture because
Mhm.
there's a picture in Rebels that looks just like it. I'm assuming it's supposed to be the same photo, obviously,
Yeah.
um, and it's just slightly different. The biggest difference was Zeb.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and granted, it's nothing like personally. I don't think it ruins it, but I think for hardcore fans who like just watch Rebels, it's like it's not the same. And we just watched Rebels, and I'm not gonna lie to you, unless you put those two pictures together, I wouldn't have noticed the difference. Really, it would to me it
Is
would
it
have been
like
the
a
same
major
exact
difference?
photo, huh?
Is it like a major difference?
No, it looks a little more cartoonish in Ahsoka than it did in Rebels.
Really?
But I think the reason for it was because, and maybe this is how I took it. Rebels was cartoon. You know what I mean? So like
hmm
it probably matched better in that world and made it look more realistic because you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It
We're in a
blends
live
in,
action.
whereas in
Yeah,
live action, it doesn't blend in.
exactly. So
Okay,
now
that
we're in a
makes sense.
live action location. It might not read as well. But anyway, all that's going on. Sabine gets chased, which is hilarious in my opinion, by what looks like Lothal's private security, and they stink. Granted,
It does. They definitely weren't trying to like actually stop her.
well, I mean, they were trying to stop her, but they weren't going to use force.
Yeah, they were just trying to like talk her out of it,
They literally were
and
just trying to block her path so she wouldn't go, and
yeah,
not registering who she is fully, I guess. And then the whole thing of her going back to now, does that or does not look like Ezra's old home?
it's Ezra's tower.
That's what I
That's Ezra's
thought.
tower. Yeah, That's the exact road. That's his hideout that he was in.
No, but you understand what
You
I'm
know,
saying. Like,
when training.
it's not like it was perfectly clear, but that was my assumption. And then we get to see Ezra, granted for a short amount of time as a hologram, which we see in the trailer, basically telling Sabine exactly what he told her to do in Rebels.
Yep. And
Um,
I love the little touch with the Lothal cats.
yeah, yeah, I was not. They look legitimately exactly what I thought they would look like. Is that weird? Like, honestly, they looked way too perfect. Um,
They're good looking.
Yeah, no, they did a good job on those. Um, then we have Sabine's long hair, which is very significant. Granted, I
It
don't think it.
signifies
I
that
think
she
it's
gave
more.
up.
Huh?
To me, it signifies that she gave up because if she was
Oh yeah,
as you saw, she just gave up because she felt that Ahsoka gave up on her and she failed her and she failed Ezra. So her growing her hair out instead of keeping it short and in her strict Mandalorian way was her way of just giving up and you know not caring anymore.
correct, correct. And then obviously, so we have Ahsoka going to this temple. I guess I don't know how to describe it. How would you describe where she goes? A
I call
temple.
it a temple. Yeah.
So she gets the map of where supposedly Thrawn and Ezra goes, but she can't open it. Apparently, there's a key that's needed to make it open. And guess what? Nobody seems to know where the key is. Big shocker. She gets that information from the female character that she um, takes captive in season one of The Mandalorian or season two.
Season 2.
Thank you.
I believe season 2. Yeah,
I
because
yes
he meets
yes
he meets Ahsoka in season 2 because that's when Luke takes Grogu.
at the end. Yes 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 yes. Yes, you're correct. So I just always mix it up because I haven't seen it in a while. I mix up season
Yeah.
one and season two sometimes. Um, because it literally was just a quick episode. It wasn't like supposed to be like a long thing. But anyway,
Mhm.
that being said, what we find out too about that woman is that she's a descendant of the Night Sisters.
Yep.
I'm
Which I
sorry,
think
that
is
was a shock to me.
insane. That was a very big shock to me
I
because I mean,
I would have lost a lot of bets. Like I would have
oh
lost a
yeah,
lot of money on that bet. Let me tell you, because I would have just thought
definitely.
she was at very least a Mandalorian. You know what I mean? Like because of the Veskar spear and everything else. I would have thought Mandalorian before Night Sister for sure.
I mean, I could see that to an extent. I never thought she was a Mandalorian. I just thought
No,
she
no,
was just a
no.
high, and she got
A trophy.
yeah, a trophy. Thank you.
I mean, really, that's what it
So
was.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I was not
the
prepared for the
disco.
Night Sister twist.
No,
Um,
it's more interesting for me just because of the bad blood between the Empire and the Night Sisters, and the fact that she's very loyal to the Empire.
I don't. So this is where it gets weird. It sounds like she's not loyal to the Empire. She's loyal to Thrawn, which is a difference. I know that sounds weird, but you understand where I'm coming from with that one.
No, I'll give it to you. I mean, it doesn't really change my opinion of it. The fact that just, I mean, with Thrawn being pro Empire, granted, like you said, it is a difference, but it's just weird.
No, I
Um,
agree with you, but we also don't know.
well, then again, they got killed off during the Clone Wars from Dooku and Grievous, so that is very different. So
And we also don't know if she's a descendant. That doesn't mean she's clearly not full blooded.
I was also taking it too as like, as if
Oh,
she also said what?
oh, I thought a worse thing. The Empire took some of the women to to try to. I just thought worse things.
It is possible.
Uh,
That is very possible. Didn't
uh,
she say that she's not part from like the main Night Sisters? She's from like a different faction.
I don't remember her saying that. I just remember she was a descendant of the Nice Sisters. I don't remember her being specific at all.
Okay.
How I took it was, granted, I'm going based on of looks alone for obvious reasons, that I don't. She's definitely not full blooded.
Hmm.
Is my guess. Whether or not it's like a sub race or a different clan of the Night Sisters or whatever, whatever. At the very least, she's not part of the Night Sisters fully that we're familiar with.
Hmm.
Um, and either way, like I'm just taking it now because I'm just thinking of the Empire because that would make her pro Empire, being born
That's
into
true.
it.
That's true.
Um, and the reason why she likes Thrawn so much is because he's so much into the history, and he would tell her about the Night Sisters.
True. That's
You
true.
know what I mean?
That
Like
could work.
all these are linking together, and I'm very much liking my thought process here. But at the same time, I could be completely wrong, and but I do like my idea only because it makes the most amount of sense because you're absolutely right. Because of the bad blood of the Night Sisters and the Empire, the only way that they would have produced loyalty between them is eradicate them, which they did, and any of those that remained were captured, tortured, either cloned or impregnated. I mean,
No, it
that's
is
what
possible.
unfortunately, that's what a lot of civilizations did in our world. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that wouldn't be all that shocking that the Empire
Genghis
would,
Khan.
yeah,
We're
everyone.
all we're all part Mongolian supposedly.
At least enough of us. But my point I'm making is just that piece. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would make sense, especially if Palpatine wanted, because he's going to need clones,
Hmm.
and how to get a force inside of a clone. The best way to do so is with Night Sisters potentially.
True.
So
No,
I mean,
that's
it
true.
would make sense, but we don't know that piece. So that's a mystery. That's still
Yep.
going to be a mystery. She gets released from prison by a. I don't want to say a Sith Lord because that's not a right. I don't think he's earned that
They're not
title.
Sith.
Um,
A
the
lot of people
closest
are.
thing to Sith, or the closest thing to Sith in this timeline, in this time period.
So a lot of people, and I agree with this term. They are
Outlaws.
they they are dark Jedi.
Okay, I'm not mad about it.
Here, let me try to find the
Well, no,
specific
it makes
term.
sense because it would be because he was a former Jedi and he still has ties to Ahsoka,
Yep.
and he did not want to kill her.
So dark Jedi are known as fallen Jedi, force
Which makes sense.
sensitive. Uh, where- Force sensitives, frequently former Jedi who chose to deny the light side of the Force or follow the dark side. So it's literally just Jedi that turned from the light to the dark.
Okay, fair
So
enough. But what
similar
I'm
to
getting at is
similar.
for this particular timeline though, this is the closest thing to a Sith we'll get.
I guess. I mean,
But I
Sith
do get what you're
is.
saying. It is a completely different. It's a completely different thought process because they're Jedi that have rejected the Order and have now gone more towards the dark side. So they've fallen
Yeah.
from where they once were and now to the dark side to a certain degree, but not to the
Yeah.
extent of the Sith.
They would be like in terms of like our canon. Uh, Count Dooku would be a dark Jedi because he was a
Oh,
former
okay,
Jedi.
okay.
But he is classified as a Sith Lord because he like fully embraces it.
But he also
Whereas
was
and like
trained by a Sith Lord, where these guys weren't necessarily.
yeah, correct. They
Okay,
just they just became they rejected the order and became
dark.
dark assassins.
Okay,
Um, I
and I
mean,
do.
Anakin would be considered a dark Jedi.
Yes, but technically he's a Sith Lord because he was trained by Lord
He's a
Sidious,
Sith,
Darth
he's a
Sidious.
Sith Lord because he's basically like a step up. Look at it as like a look at it as Inquisitors too, because Inquisitors are dark side users. They're just not as powerful as Sith Lords.
Okay,
Think
okay.
of it as power level.
So Dark Jedi is weaker.
Yeah. Hold
Okay.
on, I can find.
No, and that's fair. That does make sense because you still have the little bit of hope inside of you, which would then make you weaker as a Sith. So that would make sense. Okay. But he is still powerful, this guy, or I should say, he seems powerful.
Yep.
He did tear through all those Republic officers with ease, along with his apprentice. Um,
So here's a specific. Uh, a dark Jedi is any Jedi or former Jedi who's fallen to the dark side. A Sith is a member of a specific dark side focused religious order.
oh, so you can be a fallen Jedi, a dark Jedi, turned to a Sith.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so that makes sense to me.
In this example, Palpatine and Darth Maul are both Sith lords and are not dark Jedi because they were never part of the Jedi Order. They never
Correct.
fell. They embraced the religion straight out.
Count Dooku and Darth Vader would be considered fallen Jedi until they have, until they fully embraced it and later became Sith lords. But originally,
Yep.
when they first started,
Anakin and Count Dooku are both dark Jedi that have become Sith.
yes,
And then Kylo Ren is a dark Jedi
okay,
because
that's
he
fair.
was part of the Jedi Order, but he is not a Sith
That's fair. I'm okay with that.
because he never embraced that religion.
Correct. Correct. No, that's fair. I think that makes more sense to me now. But anyway, so we see these guys just chop these people up like they're nothing. Beautifully, by the way. And then they
I give it to the captain of that ship that
Who knew it
he
was a lie.
knew that they, huh?
he knew it was a lie.
Yeah,
But I will
and
say,
he was willing to try.
well, in fairness, he wasn't wrong, but I think he misunderstood the assignment. He knew they weren't Jedi, but I don't think he realized that they could have been Force users.
Mm.
Because I think if he would have thought that, he probably wouldn't have let them in.
Very true.
So anyway, they then capture her or set her free. I guess the best way to put it. And then they start going looking for the map. Well, the map is with Ahsoka. Ahsoka goes back to Lothal after meeting with Hera, who basically tells her the only person that can do it, figure it out, is Sabine. So go see Sabine. And she's like, "Are you only doing this because you want us to be, you know, teacher and student again?" No, but if it happens, oh well. And
You would never do that.
yeah, the only thing I'll complain about Hera is her eyes. I don't know what it is, but they scare me. I think it's the context.
In the trailers, I saw a lot of people like not liking her eyes, and apparently from the first trailer to the show, they have improved them, just not perfectly, I guess.
No, you know what it is. I think what happens is this actress who's playing her expresses her well, voices her well, you know, physically everything else. But you know when you look into somebody's eyes and you see something, right? It just for whatever reason, I'm pretty positive it's obviously got to be the contacts that they're using, along with the CGI, where I think it's making it way too like 2-dimensional, and it makes her look like she's got dead eyes. And it is very concerning because every time she says something, I get a little terrified because I'm like, is she gonna kill him? Like, what's going on? Like, is she gonna stab Ahsoka right now?
I mean, at the moment, I can totally understand that when in episode
Especially in episode 2, yes,
when
that
they were
scene,
talking to the leader of that.
that scene made her like her eyes. If that wasn't the choice they were making, it was a good choice because I was scared for them. Like seriously. So anyway, before we get to that, so Ahsoka teams up with Sabine. Sabine then takes the map off the ship against Ahsoka's wishes, which is so surprising to nobody. And she opens the map and figures out, well, she figures out where they need to go, but she doesn't know where it is.
She found the general location.
Well, yeah, but she doesn't have it memorized, so it's not like she actually knows.
Yeah,
Because as soon as she figured it out, somebody showed up.
she got attacked.
Yeah, and I will say,
Which I
like,
love those assassin droids.
yeah, yeah. But then when she fought the apprentice, right through the gut.
What do you think of that scene? Did you have an issue with the fact that she survived?
You know, first off, you know how many people have survived worse? I mean, here's the thing.
See-
I do get that. I understand the concern about it, But first off, main character, plot armor. Two,
True.
two, we've seen people take so much worse than that.
So here's the thing: like, if people are complaining because they're comparing it to Reva from Obi-Wan, they're constantly comparing it to Qui-Gon. They're comparing who else just got stabbed. Someone recently just got stabbed in Star Wars and survived.
I don't know.
Either way, Kylo, but that was through force healing from Rey.
Yes.
But so the thing that everyone else died from versus her surviving, she got stabbed in the side. No
Yeah.
major, no major arteries probably were hit. Nothing serious.
I mean, if anything, I guess the argument could be that she got her lung punctured. But here's the thing:
Is
even
your
though that's
lung bad? Oh,
well, it could have been the way it was. It could have been the bottom of her lung, like not her. You know what I'm saying? Like not.
that.
I'm being very generous here. But also the other thing too is we're also under the assumption that Mandalorian anatomy is the same as our anatomy.
All right, I'm not going to get into this game. I'm just
No,
going
no,
to
no.
assume that it's. I mean, I know you're right. You
But
are
but
right.
that's what I'm getting at. Like you can say, oh, if that was a regular human, but even then, they could have survived that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yes, like untreated, she would have died. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she
She was
was
treated
taken rather
immediately.
quickly, and they have
Yeah.
much better medical equipment than we do. So it wouldn't be all
Yeah.
that surprising that she survived.
The
Um,
big thing is everyone always gets pissed that Qui Gon died versus everyone else surviving, but they don't realize that Qui Gon got literally stabbed right in the center of his chest, and he had no medical attention for however long it took Obi-Wan to fight Maul and kill him.
well, that's the other thing too. Like there was a huge gap in time from him being stabbed and
Yeah.
anybody coming to his aid, really, because nothing against Obi Wan. He had to deal with somebody with a double-sided lightsaber, which we at the time had never seen before. So therefore, he had to deal with something very tough. And even then, I mean, the fight itself took what? Because like he couldn't even after he got stabbed, he still had to wait until the doors opened. So there was still
Yeah.
time waited after that. And then the fight, and then he fell into the pit, jumped out of the pit, got into a fight, and everything else. It was one of those things where it's like, even if he like, it doesn't matter how strong he was, he still would have died because of how long it
I
took.
saw some I saw someone else when I was scrolling through Twitter at one point when I was seeing this. They said, which I never really thought of when it comes to Qui Gon. He was so in tune with the Force and so at peace that even though when he got stabbed, he wasn't trying to live. So he probably figured it was a very like a very serious wound. So he figured my purpose now is to become one with the Force to empower other Jedi.
Which would make a lot of sense to all the other Force ghosts minus Anakin. Um, that when they were killed, they just let it happen.
Yeah,
Like Obi
which
Wan
would
was just
be
like,
Obi
"I'll be
Wan.
stronger. Like, just do what you need to do," and then,
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm better
that's
than
the
the
other thing.
Force."
Like with Yoda, there's a lot going on because Yoda is so powerful, he takes up so much Force energy that when he finally died, he was able to give his power to Luke in order to defeat Vader and Palpatine. There's a possibility that if Yoda chose to survive, that Luke might not have been able to overcome those two. Um, Granted, Vader turned to the light side again, but I mean, either
No, I
way.
get what you're saying. Um, so yeah, so we had that happen, and then she lives. Shocking. Um,
Plot armor.
I mean, seriously, like it's not, to me that wasn't that big of a deal. I mean,
No, no. I mean, like,
if anybody thought she was going to die, they're stupid.
no.
Um,
I mean,
I
she
mean,
definitely wasn't
if
going to
this was
die.
the
And
final episode, I would say okay, like we can all be concerned here. But this is the first episode. No, nobody's dying that quickly.
I am surprised that they did something like that in the first episode.
I think it was to demonstrate, in my opinion, it demonstrated how how far Sabine had been away from her training.
Mm-hmm.
and clearly how long she had not been fighting because of
Yeah.
how long her hair was. Like that, she was not at her peak. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I think it was because of all of that that really like that whole scene makes the most amount of sense because of it. Okay, and
You got a buddy.
yeah, I know, and it's he's not supposed to be out, but whatever. So the other thing too is it's just one of those things where it's just like I'm gonna have to pause this. This is gonna irritate me now. All right, I think he's gone. So what kills me is just the fact that it really shows how weak she was at that particular point in time, especially in her fighting overall. Um, and not to say that she's weak, but clearly she has not fought in a long time. Hence her hair and everything else. And it wasn't until the end of episode 2 where she actually cuts it, gets her armor and all her weaponry ready, that she's ready to go back to fighting again.
Mm-hmm.
So we see like this transition from Sabine being a civilian, I guess the best way to put it, to finally being a warrior again. And I think that's one of the biggest things right now.
Yes.
That was kind of Sabine's big thing. Granted, she also figured out where the droids came from and everything else. We're almost blowing up the entire hospital as well, which was hilarious to me.
I love that interaction between between those three, Ahsoka, the Sabine, and the droid. I love their chemistry. It's so good. It's so
Like,
good.
and Ahsoka was just like, yeah, I don't care. Do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And Sabine's like, I got this. And the droid's like, we're at critical. We've been at critical. Like, we're at critical. Like, I'm shutting it down. And Sabine's like, give me a minute. It's like, we don't have a minute. She's like, I almost got it. And then she got it. Which still shows how incredibly technologically savvy she is, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Which I do enjoy the most out of everything. That we still get to see that piece of her. And then we see Hera and Chopper, along with Ahsoka, going to this former Imperial outpost that turned out to be still an Imperial outpost.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Which I'm gonna be honest, like, was the supervisor aware of it, or was he actually clueless?
oh, I think he was aware of it, but I think it was one of those things where, just like Ahsoka said, she's like, I can't, when Hera's like, I can't believe there are still people loyal to the Empire, and she's like, they're not. They're loyal to greed.
True. That's true.
So like, I don't think I think he knew because he was making money off of it. I don't think he knew necessarily what was fully going on. If you understand what I mean, like I don't think he knew like the full details of everything, but he knew he was getting a paycheck for keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll give you that. It's just like one of those things when they were like, "Oh, do you have any assassin droids in production?" And he was like, "No," and the other droid was like, "Actually, no, we do." And he, like, to me, he seemed surprised.
Well, he might
But
have
I
been.
didn't know.
Well,
Like, I
no, he
didn't know if
very
that
well
was
could have been,
or,
but he knows where the money was coming from. There's no way he didn't.
oh, yeah.
I don't think he knew. Like, I think it was one of those things where it's like, these people pay me a lot of money to keep my mouth shut. Well, then guess what? I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And that's really in my mind where that goes. So that to me made the most amount of sense. And then that whole fight scene, and then seeing Chopper look for the tracker was hilarious. He's like yelling at Hera like, "Did you touch my stuff? Why would I touch your stuff, Chopper? Check underneath where you put the batteries." And he's like, "Oh, I found it." And then he throws it and he goes, "Woo!" The whole little Chopper interaction. So at first glance, when we first saw Chopper, this is when they first land there, and like stay in the Phantom, Chopper. I was like, well, this sucks. That was legitimately what I was thinking. And then once we got into the Phantom, into the, I guess, flight fight, and I'm being very generous by calling it that, we get to see Chopper's full like personality come out, and I was very happy about it.
Yep. No, I was loving that. As I'm watching it, I'm like, I hope Scott is enjoying it just as much as I am.
Well, so the whole thing was like we saw him, and it's like we don't get that much interaction out of him right away. So I don't know if they did it on purpose to make us think like they were going to change his personality or whatever, or like he was going to be a big piece of the whole thing.
Mhm.
And then he was back. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt much better. Like they gave me just enough taste in the beginning to be like, maybe we'll do something, maybe we won't. And then they were like, here you go. And I was like, yeah. Um, and
I
then
just I just love it. He's like searching through his stuff. Why, like you said, like why would I go through your stuff? And he's like, well, I don't know. And then he's like, hey, did you check under the battery? Oh,
and he
and
opens
just
the
throw
thing. He's
everything
like,
out.
ah,
Oh,
I found
got
it.
it.
And then he throws and he's like, do 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 do, which I find hilarious. It's just like him. And then so they got the tracking device on it, and they know where they're going or know where they are.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
know where the ship is, I should say. We can't say they know where they are. Um, and then Ahsoka faces an Inquisitor that I don't think we've ever met.
We have not met this brand new Inquisitor,
Which the
and it's a
rumor is.
very and it's a very powerful Inquisitor.
So the rumor is, and this has been a rumor since I think what last week when you and I talked about this. Was it
Is
last
this
week?
the one that I told you?
Did you tell me this? Were you the one that said this to me that Ezra could have been the Inquisitor?
Yes, I did tell you that.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that is at least to me, and unless there's some kind of plot twist, I believe that has been disproven
Now, why do you say it's been disproven?
because Ezra has been lost with Thrawn for the last however many years. We do that the map led to where is supposed Thrawn is in exile, lost with Thrawn is in exile with Ezra. Out, we don't know where. So unless it's some plot twist where Ezra has made it back and Thrawn has not, he can't be the Inquisitor
Oh, okay. Now I understand what you're saying.
because
Okay.
Ezra is supposed to be
I,
with Thrawn.
I think we'll have to find out when we find Thrawn, because we don't know the full parameters of everything. Because I do agree with you that is a very big possibility. That meaning like that's 99% positive that that's probably what's going to be. But you understand where I'm coming from. We don't know
Yeah.
why he's stuck there.
No, we do not. We do not.
Maybe they don't
But
like blue
so
people. And that's a I hate.
Racist.
There's a lot of racist things out there in the
We
universe.
saw it. You saw
It's
it
called
in
the Empire.
Thrawn books.
I know it's called the Empire. It's kind of racist.
Um, so the new theory going on is that this character, this Inquisitor, is supposed to be a nod to the Force Unleashed video games, where
Oh,
this is a similar character to Galen Merrick.
okay. Was that the one
who
that?
is who is Star Killer in the game? The
Okay, that's
main
what I thought.
main yeah. So it makes sense because his name is like I said, his name is Galen Merrick. The new character's name is Marok. Marok. So it's very similar in name. The design of the outfit is very similar to the Sith outfit that he has,
Yep.
and apparently, which we found out at the end of episode 2 in the post-credit scene, is the actor who plays said character is I'm gonna butcher his name, but Sam Whittaker, who is he is the guy who voices Darth Maul in the animated shows, and he is also the character of Star Killer in the video games.
Is he the voice actor or is he the physical actor?
Voice actor.
You hesitated. I'm only asking, not that it really matters. I was just curious.
Sam Witwer, my bad. Sam Witwer.
That's interesting. Oh, I mean, they've done a lot of. I don't want to say weird stuff because that's not the Star Destroyer or Star Killer. Neither.
Star Killer. Star Killer.
Yep, I got you. Galen Merrick. Yeah, that sounds similar to the name they gave. But anyway, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, he also voiced Ocean Master in the Justice League animated shows.
Okay. Interesting. Um,
You watched Once Upon a Time, right?
yeah.
He's the actor who played Edward Hyde.
Ew. Oh. Oh. Okay.
There we go. There you go.
It takes me a bit. Yeah. So he. Okay. Yeah, he would play a good villain. I'm interested. I mean, here's the thing: they could do so much with that character, and nobody would really be mad about it. Because even if it was Ezra, it still wouldn't ruin. You know what I'm saying? Like, it still wouldn't ruin a lot.
Hmm.
But that being said, it sounds like they're bringing the video games into canon, or at least partially, or potentially, I should say. And then
Yes,
obviously,
that is correct. He voiced the Darth Maul in Clone Wars and in no, not
Rebels.
in Rebels. It was a different.
Oh, it wasn't the same actor?
No, yeah, he did do Rebels. He was also in Rebels.
I was gonna
Yep,
say I thought it was the same actor.
yep. It's
Um,
I forgot because he changed his voice so much that it sounded sometimes it would sound different. But no, you were correct. It is him.
and then I was gonna say I thought it was the same voice actor because they tried to keep all the same actors for that.
Except for that time, that short stint where they changed the voice actor of Palpatine in Clone Wars.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, no, not a good time. But overall, I thought this was great because we get to see a lot, and a lot happened. Um, I, I mean, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. The only thing we know is we're eventually going to see Ezra, we're going to see Thrawn, and somehow Ahsoka is going to go fight these dark Jedi. I mean,
Yep.
that's really all we know that's going to happen. And they've opened the door to a lot of other stuff.
No, there's a lot that can be going. We
There are spin-offs like you couldn't believe. We got Night
this
Sisters coming
show.
out. We got
Yeah,
everything coming out now. You name it, we got it.
they're going to be touching a lot into the lore now, and it's going to be
Oh,
great. So if you're like a big Star Wars nut,
they,
this is going to be great
I
because
mean,
it's just going to be
they're literally touching on
everything.
everything from Clone Wars, like all like the side stuff of Clone Wars and Rebels, and bringing it in. And like they
Yep.
brought it in so nicely that even though it was a lot, it wasn't overwhelming.
Hmm.
Like they did such a perfect job, which irritates me even more because now I'm just
They're
excited.
spreading it out well,
Yeah, I think my only complaint is there's only 6 episodes left.
or not? Yeah.
That's literally
Yeah.
my
No,
only
I agree.
complaint. I
I wish they would stick the Andor, um, with the Andor formula because the 12 episodes for Andor was perfect. They spread it out. It was every episode had something that
un, I agree with you, but I think it also depends too on if
it
they
depends on
plan
the
on.
show.
Well, yes, I mean don't get me wrong, not every show can have the same amount of episodes, but
Hmm.
I think if you, I will say this: out of all of them, like on Disney Plus, Star Wars is the only one that's getting it right in the sense of like they got their episode timing decently well, um, if not perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like because like none of the shows are exactly the same number. You know what I'm saying? Like it's based on the show itself, which I
Yeah,
think
it's based on the episode.
correct. I mean the only thing different I think because even because like Boba Fett and Mandalorian were the only two that had the same number of episodes.
Boba Fett had 7.
Oh no, so I was wrong. So yeah, so none of them did. So my whole point I'm making is
Boba Fett had 7. Obi-Wan had 6,
yes,
and Mandalorian has 8. All three
yeah.
seasons had 8.
And Ahsoka's kind of
Yeah.
going with that, but even then,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's based on the story. It's
No, it
based
is.
on the show, which I think is even better, which makes it much more like they're not just like, oh, it's all Star Wars. Well, then guess what? They're all going to be 8 episodes. I'm
Mhm.
glad that they're not doing it that way, or at least not seeming it that way.
No.
I just hope that they would just. I mean, I just want a lot. I want everything. I want
See,
47. I want 47
my
episodes
issue.
per season, each one
Right.
being an hour and a half long. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking for much. I don't think that's a
See,
lot.
my thing is, I just want a little bit more, just because like the 8 episodes is just so short and it's so spread out that it doesn't last long enough to keep hold us over for till the next thing. So it's always like I liked Andor that it was 12. It lasted a while. It kept us going. It was something to look forward to for a decent amount of time. I just wish the shows were at least 10 episodes. Like,
Yeah,
anything under 10,
give us more than 2 months. Give us more than 2 months.
pretty much.
I mean, I agree. I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you.
The
Um,
only thing that I felt that Star Wars has failed on was how Mandalorian season 3, it was 8 episodes, but they were such short episodes.
yeah.
Granted, that was the only time where the show actually felt Star Wars actually felt rushed so far in these Disney Plus shows was season 3, which I know we've talked about. They've had the season 3 had its ups and downs, and we each have our own opinions on it. Like I enjoyed it. It wasn't as good as the first two seasons. Nowhere
I
near.
definitely agreed with you on
But
that. I just don't think I registered that was quick
yeah,
in my
I mean,
mind.
it had so much that the thing that's we're not supposed to be talking about season 3, but season 3 is like it had so much, and it just felt like like when it ended, we were like, oh, that's it, and we're like, we want more,
No, agreed.
and
No, that I will
um,
agree with, 100%. But I'm hoping they
and so
don't do
far
that
I'm
with this.
liking that with Ahsoka. We know the episode run times. First episode was 55 minutes. Next week is going to be, or episode 2 was 45. I believe next week was
49.
40. Yeah, I think it was 49. Yeah, I think it was 49, and
It
it
was
was like
like it
staying
was
around
just
that.
yeah. It's gonna stay around that,
Yeah,
which I'm not mad
which is
about.
nice. Which
No,
gives
no,
it a
no. It's
pace
not.
that it.
It's not
Yeah,
bad. It's basically like a regular episode. It's like an hour-long
yeah,
episode if it was on regular TV.
yeah. So it's gonna play out its story. It's not gonna be rushed. It's not gonna feel like it's dragging
It
on,
shouldn't.
and yeah.
That's the big thing.
So
We have to go by assumption until we actually see it.
mhm.
Not that I am hoping anything happens. I don't. I'm just stating in general we don't know until it does. Um,
No, you are correct. You
but
are correct.
overall, I think this was great, and I cannot wait to talk about the next two episodes in the next podcast. So, are you
Did you
ready to move
notice
on
the
to
little
DC?
Easter egg in the second episode when they were looking at the map? Did you see
Yeah,
the
not Norwells. The
purple?
yes, yeah,
Yes,
the ones that actually took them to that location. I
yes, the
can't think of
purple.
their names, but you know what I'm talking about.
I literally have just said it like 3 times.
Well, say it again without me talking.
The Purgles.
Thank you. The Purgles. So the Purgles, I did notice. But were they there before? Because I only saw them when the Night Sister made it. Because I don't remember seeing it when Sabine did it.
Well, Sabine was also
It was
not.
much smaller scale too.
Yeah, so they were just flying around over in the night where the Night Sister was. Um, Sabine was inside, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
And
there
it
was no
also
way
was
that they
only
would
like
have.
the size. It was only the size of her hand because it only opened up
Yeah, so
slightly.
there was no way that we would have seen any Purgles. So
Correct. But no, I'm just saying in general because I'm just like because the only time we really saw it was when she opened it. And yes, I did notice.
hey, listen, sometimes you miss this stuff. I missed
No.
it at first.
No, but did you notice that she had the marking on her forehead?
Yep.
Okay. Well, then we're on the same page. Sorry, let's move on
Very
to
nice.
DC. So I'm gonna briefly talk about Blue Beetle because one of us hasn't seen it, and this is a rarity for me because normally I'm the one that doesn't see something. So I'm very much going to enjoy this.
Listen,
Um,
all right.
I don't
Life
care. There's
happens.
no
All
excuses.
right.
No excuses. No
No
excuses.
excuses. Your excuse is usually that you forgot about it. My excuse is I've just been too busy to do it. All right.
I think it doesn't matter. I think it's semantics. So
When
anyway,
did you go see it?
Saturday.
So yesterday.
Yeah.
And did you know that I was trying to go see it today, but so in my movie theaters, um, everything it's like I said, I think they were giving up on it because of everything going on with DC and the movie strikes and whatnot. So I think
There were
it's like
significantly less viewing times
they
at
were
my place than there normally is. So like every
like
other movie I've
Dolby is out. It's out of Dolby. No more Dolbys. Um, I was going to go see it today in digital because no because today, supposedly, I guess it was like a movie holiday where a lot of movie theaters were showing free movies, selling free movie tickets all day. So I was like, you know what? I'll go see it in digital if it's free, but I didn't have time. So
So I will say this, and I told you this before we started the recording today. The It's an origin story, so it wasn't phenomenal, but I thought it was good. I thought it did a very good job telling the story of who Jaime is. It did a good job of who Blue Beetle is, and what we're going to see in the future if there is a future.
hmm
Um,
now, like I said before we recorded, you are more than welcome to talk about whatever you want because
George
after this
Lopez
weekend,
made the movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I have heard that. So someone I work with has seen it and he said it was very good.
Like
Um,
I said, it wasn't. It just like so. Here's the thing. I just like everyone else. When you want to compare it to everything else, it's kind of average, but it does not mean that it's not a good movie. I thought it was good. I thought there were parts that were hilarious. You know what I mean? That worked perfectly. I
Granny,
also think one of the
Granny
things
with a
that I
gun,
think, huh?
Granny with a gun.
You didn't see her use it, just so you know. She was amazing the entire time. No, the one of the big things that I would say is one of DC's biggest issues is they make the assumption that everyone knows what's going on, like chronologically. And
Okay.
so what I mean by that is they heavily hinted that there was already a Blue Beetle before Jaime. Now, granted, in the comics, he's the third Blue Beetle.
Yep, I was just about to say he's not the
No, I
first.
know, but what I'm getting at is this is where it's weird. But like they made it seem like, oh yeah, everyone knows Blue Beetle, and it's like, no. Like
He's not a big
if
character.
we
Yeah. Okay.
did, we wouldn't be one. Like we would have known going. Like you know what I mean? Like they made it seem wait like oh duh. Of course there was another Blue Beetle before this. He didn't have the Scarab, but he was a Blue Beetle. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those things where it's just like, which, by the way, is canon. It's based on the comics. The original two Blue Beetles did not have the Scarab.
Yep.
They had the Scarab but couldn't use it. Um,
The Scarab did not choose them.
Correct, but in their minds, they couldn't use the Scarab.
hmm
The wording is very specific there. Mostly due to the fact that these guys just thought they were better than everyone else, even though they were heroes in their own right to a certain degree. But overall, um, it was good. Um, you wouldn't like it because they did what Marvel does.
They killed off the villain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so that was a little bit of a disappointment, but in the end, it's one of those things where it's like the villain they killed off is not a huge, like he is a Blue Beetle villain, but he's not like
He's
he's
not like a main. He's not like a main.
he's not A
He,
class. He's not
yeah.
S class. You know what I mean? Like he's B class. So it's not like the end of the world. It's like Crossbones dying in Captain America 3. Like yeah, it was disappointing because we wanted to see more of him, but realistically, was he that great of a character? No. So it's
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where it's like you gotta eat your crow when you can.
hmm
I the suit looked amazing. I will say that. There was only one instance where I wasn't a fan of the suit, but I understood it. Like there was one thing with like the CGI, so like without ruining anything, his suit gets broken at a certain point, so his mask is half broken. So, but like, yeah, no, they explain why. But like the way his like AI suit and his eye is, it's not level, and it makes sense because but it like it was weird. It just didn't look quite right because like they make it seem like the eyes are right over the eyes, but
Oh,
when
okay.
when it broke, all of a sudden his eyes up here while his eyes here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Like very minor stuff, and that wasn't till towards the end anyway. So realistically, it looked great and perfect up until that only one minor point, and then it was fixed up and it's fine.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, the yeah. So all that, and then George, oh my God, George Lopez, hilarious. The whole family was great, and definitely showed family at its best and worst at the same time, um,
Okay.
which I thought was great.
It
Um,
seemed like this was going to be a very family-oriented movie, so it definitely. I'm
100%, no,
glad that.
without a doubt, very much so. Um, a lot of racist stuff in there, to really hint on the fact of like how his family's treated, and how like you know what I mean. So how the Latinx community is treated still, especially by corporations. But other than that, I
And
mean, oh,
Batman's a fascist.
huh? No, Batman is a fascist. But what made me laugh was when that line came out. He literally, he literally was talking about, oh yeah, some multi-billionaire dressed up in a in an animal suit fighting crime. Makes sense. But was talking about Blue Beetle, not Batman, which is why it was hilarious because he had just called Batman a fascist, and it just made me laugh because one of the big things that bothered me, and it's what it was George Lopez's character that said it, but I'm not mad at George. Like I still love his character. It's like, oh my gosh, your dad was Blue Beetle. And Jaime's like, who the heck is Blue Beetle? He's like, he's a superhero. How do you not know who he is? And it's like, not a single person in the audience would have known that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Or I shouldn't say nobody in the audience, but unless you're a big fan of Blue Beetle, most people know uh, Jaime Reyes more than anybody else, and because he's the one that made the character
Yeah. Yeah.
big. Um,
Most general audiences aren't going to like the general public. Like this is going back to the Star Wars thing, where if you're not a hardcore fan, you're not going to know this stuff.
Correct. And so the way the so there were two after credit scenes. One was very much a joke. It was something of a George Lopez thing, um, where it was definitely funny, but it didn't lead to anything. It was more for comedic purposes. That one
Hmm.
was at the very end, which I was kind of PO'd about a little bit because I wish they would have switched it, because I would have left, had I known what I was going to watch. Because it really didn't mean anything. It was funny. It was a little bit funny, but it really didn't mean anything. It was the first after credit scene where we hear the actual former Blue Beetle asking for help.
Oh, okay.
We don't know anything about where, why, how. We know who, because we know who he is. But I mean, other than that, we don't know anything. But obviously, Blue Beetle has not been confirmed to have a sequel or to still exist after this.
He is supposed to still exist. We just don't know if he has a sequel.
So it led to the idea that there's going to be a sequel, but it doesn't lead up enough to know like what the sequel is going to be about because we
Yep.
don't know where the former Blue Beetle is.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So overall, I mean, I definitely didn't hate it. I thought the fights were great. I thought everything was like actually good. The interaction between Jaime and the Scarab was hilarious. Um, there, there's one scene that cracked me up, and I wish they phrased it differently, because I would have laughed hysterically if they phrased it this way. But I understand because it's a um,
PG.
Is it PG or PG-13? It's 13, isn't it?
I don't remember. I thought it was PG, but it could be
It might be
13.
PG. So it would explain why they didn't do it. So like he's going to kiss the love interest, and the Scarab's like, blood flow detected in midsection or extreme blood flow. Ex- so what I would have hoped, what I wanted it to say instead, because it's learning our language, would have been the fact that erection detected, and I would have been so happy.
You are correct. It is PG-13.
But either way, that was like, and again, very minor stuff. Like for the most part, it was excellent. It was excellently done. The villains, question with an S, were very
I've heard
good.
about that.
I thought they were very good. Corporate America and a killer, very good. Um, I thought it was excellent overall, and I did enjoy it.
So I have one question for you.
Oh, one other thing that bothers me, I will say about the movie, and this is throughout all movies. So Blue Beetle is a good guy. What color is he? Blue. Shocking, I know. The villain? Red.
We talked about this before. Yep.
Like again,
Red and black. Red and black are the bad colors.
But I mean, like that's just a very minor thing. But it just because it brings back to like we really can't figure out who the villain is. Like the one who just like smashed somebody's face into a wall. Like we don't know that's the villain. Like he could be wearing bright white. Like I'm pretty sure he's a villain. He just smashed that guy's skull.
Like White Vision in WandaVision.
Yeah. No, I know, but that's what I'm getting at. Like you need to know who the villain is. Like you'll know who the villain is. It doesn't need to be color coded, unless of course that character is normally that color anyway. Blue Beetle is Blue Beetle,
which those characters were that color.
I know, but I just didn't like the choices just because in general. I understand that comic wise that's what he looked like, but still. I will say comic book accurate costumes and suits. So I was very impressed with that for both the hero and the villain.
So I have one question for you. I was hearing rumors before the movie came out that there was a scene in this movie that they were making, that there was going to be a scene that made a nod to Man of Steel. Is that true?
So there's a scene that I'm thinking of that is very loosely tied to Man of Steel. But to me, it wasn't really Man of Steel. It was more of like the stereotypical rite of passage for a hero.
Okay.
So like it's really tough to explain without giving it away. There's something that happens that to me, and when you see it, you'll get it. Happens in every superhero movie, especially in origin stories or like in the process of becoming the hero, whatever. And it was very similar.
Loss of a family member.
And so there was a similar scene in Man of Steel where that happens, where he's kind of just, you know what I'm saying? But it's so loosely related to it, where I wouldn't go Man of Steel. I would have went typical superhero thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, they hinted at like Superman before, but they hinted at all the superheroes. I will say they hinted heavily at Green Lanterns.
Oh, okay.
So Green Lanterns exist. It was in the opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
So like we see the Scarab traveling through space, and you see a green light try to stop it. You don't see anybody with it, but you just see the green light try to stop it. So it's
cool.
very heavily hinted that there's lanterns involved.
Yeah, I did actually saw something about that on Twitter that that there was like the scene at the very beginning of the movie was a Green Lantern, and I was like, oh, okay. But
yeah,
no,
well,
okay,
so like they didn't
sense.
show the Green Lantern. They literally showed the light, and we just, as an audience member, if you don't know, it doesn't ruin it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't know what it
Someone was
is,
trying to stop.
it's literally just the opening credit things where you would have thought it was just a CGI thing that they decided, and you wouldn't have been the wiser. But for those people who noticed, you would have assumed it was a Green Lantern power ring energy
Yep.
of some sort.
Okay.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was good.
So I have two questions for you. Or actually, are you done talking about it?
Actually, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so then I have two questions for you. 3 DC movies this year, so far. Shazam, Flash, Blue Beetle. What's your ranking? Or actually, what do you rank Blue Beetle overall out of 10?
7. 7, 7.5.
7.
7,
Okay.
7.5.
Okay.
I
And
would think
now,
it was good, but it's an origin story. It's one of those things where like yes, it's good, and I
mhm.
did enjoy it and everything else. Like it was, but it's again an origin story. So like there's
Yeah,
very stereotypical things that happen.
setting up the story for future projects.
No, agreed, 100% agreed. I'm just stating in
Yep.
general that going into it, you know what's going to happen. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like if you know any superhero movie, you know what's going. Like if you know any origin story, you know exactly what's going to happen. You might
Yeah.
not know the order it happens or how it happens, but you know basically what's going to happen. Um, this is tough because it's so different from the two of them. Because the other two were
There.
really like sequels, really
Yeah.
in their own way, and so this one was its own. Like you know, what I
Shazam.
mean?
Shazam was a sequel. The
I know, but
Flash was.
I'm
The Flash
arguing
is
it's a
like
sequel because
it's iffy. I will agree with you. It could be a sequel because we've talked about this. It could like he's appeared in other movies and like
yeah,
that and but like
I do agree with you. It's technically his first standalone movie,
yeah, but it's not
but
an origin story.
no. So that's where it kind of gets weird. So it's like it's not the
Yeah.
stereotypical one. So I mean, you could argue that we figured out his origin in that movie, but like I don't think it really mattered. It wasn't his origin story because he was already the hero going into that. And
He was already an established hero by the time his
yeah,
movie came out, and that being the first movie is kind of interesting.
I think I'm gonna go Blue Beetle as the best one, and only by this. But here's my thing: only by this criteria. My expectation for Shazam was high until I saw the trailer, and then I pretty much figured out exactly what was going to happen. I was very disappointed. Right?
Okay.
The Flash. Um, I was very disappointed in just the the universe that no longer exists. You know what I mean? Like seeing Batman die a lot was very depressing. I know that shouldn't ruin the movie, but like I don't know. There was I think there were way too many questions unanswered in that movie, where I wasn't as happy as I should have been from it. Because when the movie ends, we don't even know where we are.
No, that's true. It is true.
I think that would be the only like if they would have given us a definite answer on like where we were. I don't think I would have had a. I think it would have been number one on this list. But Blue Beetle, I wasn't sure what I was expecting. I knew it was an origin story, so I knew he was going to come of age or become the hero he's supposed to be. So like yeah, you could say like oh obviously you knew what was going to happen, and yeah I did, but they did it in a way that I can honestly say I would never have. I would have lost.
Okay.
I would have been wrong. I had some parts correct, I will admit. Like I knew certain things that were going to happen, um, but they definitely weren't done in the way I was expecting.
Okay. So I would go then with it's going to be Blue Beetle, Flash, Shazam for you.
100%, yeah. But I think Flash and
Okay.
Blue Beetle are they're close.
Mm-hmm.
Shazam's way down there, but like Flash and Blue Beetle are like they're like really just like they're touching each other.
Yeah. Okay. It could go either way for you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm only going with Blue Beetle on top just for the sheer fact of like I didn't I wasn't disappointed at it, but I wasn't thrilled with it. Like I wasn't like it didn't go beyond my expectations, but it didn't go
Mm-hmm.
below my expectations. Like it met right where I was expecting it to be.
Okay. Fair
Which
enough.
is not a bad thing. That's a good
No.
thing for a movie. I'm just stating in general like where the Flash I had all these expectations
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Yep.
I overhyped it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I might have ruined it for myself because I overhyped it. That being said,
That's true.
it was still a good movie. I
Mm-hmm.
still like I just rewatched it today. Um, like there were some instances I forgot that happened. Um,
Okay.
that I was like, oh, that's funny, or like, oh, that actually makes sense. Um, a lot of stuff with Bruce Wayne, um, Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne. specifically. That got me like, oh, I don't remember this, or like I don't remember that piece. But even still, like, yes, it's still a good movie, but I'm gonna go below slightly Blue Beetle. I'm gonna get hate in the
All right.
comments, but I don't care. All right, let's move on to My Adventures with Superman. So these two episodes were a two-parter, which I'm kind of glad we're talking about the two of them together.
Yeah, they were really good episodes.
I am glad I watched them. I waited until both were out before I watched them, and I'm very glad I did that. It was. I will admit that it was not planned. So this is where it gets weird. Like I originally planned it. Like when we finished this episode, last episode, I mean, recording. I was like, I'm gonna wait to watch both of them at the same time. I forgot they were two-parter until I watched them.
You started watching it.
Yeah, but they were both already out at this point, so it didn't matter. So like I watched them both anyway. So Superman gets his new power of super hearing, and he's spending all his time trying to save Metropolis, and he is up for like 3 days straight of just
Yeah,
saving everyone.
chugging the coffee.
Yeah, he's going well beyond his limit. Now you can argue that Superman doesn't have a limit. This one does, because he's still learning his powers. He does have a limit. It fluctuates.
He still needs to sleep.
Oh no, I am not arguing that whatsoever. I'm just stating that yes, he is gaining to that point where he could become limitless, but he is definitely not there yet. He can definitely do a lot more than a human, obviously. So like him going 3 days is probably us going 36 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yes, it is bad, but at the same time, you can sort of function for a bit. Not that I recommend it, by the way. But in general, I'm just saying, like, we could function.
No, it's not fun.
No, not at all. I don't ever want to do it again. But, that being said, we get to see him really try to save the world in so many different ways. And in fact, because of him doing that, it actually backfires. People actually are afraid of him, hate him, think of him as a monster, or a vigilante. Vigilante. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Vigilante.
Thank you.
Vigilante.
So there was a character that was introduced in this, and did you get the hint? When that news reporter interviewed somebody, did you know who that was? Or who that was supposed to be?
You're talking about the Amazo's buddy, whatever.
Yeah,
Is,
yeah.
I don't remember who it is.
His name was Alex.
Yeah. I don't remember. I'm
Oh.
blanking.
So Alexander Luthor.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Because he goes by Lex later. So because this is an origin story of Superman, Alex is not Lex.
That makes sense.
So
I
granted,
can't
this is
believe I
not.
didn't pick up on that.
Oh, I did right away. Smart guy hates Superman because he's an alien.
Yep.
That was my first
No,
thought.
yeah, I cannot believe I didn't pick up on that.
But
Wow.
that does not mean it is him, though. It has not been confirmed it's
No.
him. But
Correct.
but I am heavily thinking it for multiple reasons. One, it's a very intelligent person, hates Superman, but hates him specifically for the fact that he must be an alien from outer space who wants to take over this planet.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where I'm going with the Lex vibes on that. But I still could be wrong. But I do like my chances on being correct, because it's a nice nod if it is, because it is like perfect. Because they went with Alex instead of Lex, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
So then we get the Suicide Squad going after Superman. So here's my
And they did
question:
a pretty good job.
Vanisher, is it Vanisher? Is that their name? What are they called? Mist? No, Mist.
Missed.
Mist. Do you think Mist knew what the plan was, or do you think it was just a happy accident that he got Superman? Where
No, I think he knew.
you did think he knew?
Yeah, because he had the collar on.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I missed that piece.
Because
But
when he
anyway-
was in, when he went after Superman started getting attacked, you saw him like on the side, and he brought his shirt down, and you saw that he had the collar.
Oh, okay. I might have missed that part. But yeah. So then they all go after him, and now my argument is the reason why they were able to beat him so badly is because he has no sleep.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but he's still able to hold his own even without that. But gets beat up bad, um, and then gets captured.
And
Um,
Amazo did a number on him.
oh yeah, yeah, beat him bad.
Hmm.
They all did a lot of damage to him, but I will agree, Amazo did do a lot of the damage. And then when they lock him in, I think one of the parts that bothers me is it looks like they did red sun generators, or that's what it looked like, and I'm curious how they
Yes,
do that.
I am curious. I will agree with that. I'm.
Oh, actually no. Hear me out. They know it because it was a red sun generator that was over the brain in the gorilla.
Oh, okay.
So they saw that he was weaker or couldn't control himself, so they correlated the two together because their robots were there to see it.
Yeah, I was going to say I assumed that it was.
Kryptonian tech that they were just using.
Yeah, I was going to assume that this kind of hints it off of the second episode where we find out that the Kryptonians invaded Earth, and so they were able to do testing on the Kryptonian tech that was left behind, and they
Also
figured that
true.
out.
So, all right, here's my question: who do you think that was? I mean, obviously, I would assume it's General Zod, but we don't know that for a fact.
That's what I'm going with, General Zod. Um,
Now, what do you think happened? Was it the destruction of Krypton? Because it couldn't have been.
I think the government found out what he was doing and kind of pulled the plug on it. I think he was trying to operate under the radar, and like I said, they just found out and pulled the plug because there's a lot of instances where Zod just was doing things
But
against that.
you know what I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed, but did you notice the symbols on the robots?
No,
So the symbols on the robots are very similar to the dots that are normally on Brainiac's head.
I did not notice that. I'll be honest. I didn't pay attention to that.
So, granted, I mean, you can argue that three dots that are connected are not Brainiac, but like they're in a way that made me think that they were. Like it gave me Brainiac vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like whether or not it was Brainiac or not, I'm not going to say, but like it gave me Brainiac vibes, or that somebody's teamed up with Brainiac temporarily,
Yep.
um, where it makes me think that that be the case. But I'm very curious to see where they go with it. So anyway, so then Clark breaks out, not really. Um, Amazo breaks him out and beats him up and gains a
Amanda
lot
Waller
of power.
sabotages. Amanda Waller sabotages the general and lets everyone escape.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all right, hear me out on this one. It fits Amanda Waller's character. I am not arguing that whatsoever. But this
100%.
particular Amanda Waller, I was surprised by.
Yeah. No,
I,
definitely.
like, don't get me wrong, like, character wise, like, based in the whole comic book area, makes sense to me. But for this particular character, I was surprised.
No,
Because I thought
very,
she was
very
different.
the way
The
that
way
their
they presented her.
relationship was. Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, they all escape. They all start beating up on Superman. Superman escapes. And he goes to fight this, basically Kaijo Amazo. He's absorbed so much energy that he's the size of Godzilla.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and basically, Firebird and Lois Lane tell the entire city of Metropolis to shut off their power to protect Superman.
Which kind of baffled me with them. Like that still doesn't really cut off the electrical power, but whatever.
But if you shut off the circuit breakers, yes, it does.
Okay, if you shut off the circuit breaker, yes. That okay, yes. Um, I wasn't. I was just taking it and then just going to turn off the light
Well,
switches.
because well, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of them did say they were shutting off their like turn off the lights, but then others
Mhm.
said, "Oh, we got to turn off the circuit breakers." So you know what I'm saying? So like they were, I think there were people doing both. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like there was enough people doing it where some of it was like shutting off stuff, and other people were just turning off the electricity.
Yeah.
And Superman saves him. Amazo, I guess the best way to put it. Gets him out of
I
the
thought it
machine.
was I thought it was interesting that
He was able to pull him out without killing him.
well, yeah, but especially after their first fight with how that went. But I thought it was a little interesting when they turned off all the power that he kind of just instantly started losing his power and like started going back to normal, which I was and the way I always assumed this character was that he, once he absorbed the power, it was his and that was it. But like he just started losing it.
Well, no, I think this one was very clear that it needed to absorb energy, or else it was going to shrink. This version of it, because if you remember, Superman stopped hitting him to give him energy, so then he started literally
Yeah.
draining the energy of the human that they were using.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. I
And
know that.
I'm just talking about this particular version of the character. I'm not saying in the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
comics. I'm just saying in this
No, no,
particular one. So it made sense based on the demonstration of this character already in this universe. It made sense that once the power was off, he would start to drain his energy.
yeah. It just was because he started like. I understand the draining of his energy, kind of, and like
Hmm.
absorbing the host and whatnot, but the fact that like I said, just because the power got cut and he started instantly shrinking, and that gave Superman the edge, which also was interesting. Um,
Yeah, but it also know too it wasn't significant right away.
no, 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 it wasn't. It was not.
No, but it was noticeable. It was enough to be
Yeah,
noticeable, but I figured it would make sense. The other thing too is, I mean, it was so massive that I would imagine him moving takes a lot of energy.
true. That is true. Oh,
So
yeah.
by definition, he would be wasting energy rather quickly, based on his size. Um, that and then so then he saves he saves Metropolis, and finally goes to bed. Um, and then Amanda Waller becomes the what's it called? The leader of Task Force X. Can't even speak now. And the general is now beneath her, and he has orders to kill Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one episode left of the season.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see where this goes.
We will
I'm
see I'm wondering if we'll find out who the invaders originally were.
yep.
Obviously, we're gonna see what is going on with if the general is going to try to follow through with his orders.
Hmm.
Because obviously, in the second episode, he kind of started getting a conscience and didn't want to kill Superman anymore.
Hmm.
Uh, what was the name of the episode again? Do you remember? The last episode.
They were
What
both
was
called the
this?
same thing. Zero Day. Oh! You mean the name of the episode coming up?
Yeah.
Um, hold on, I'll tell you in 2 seconds. I'm stuck. Heart of the Fathers.
Heart of the Father. Okay. So Heart of
Fathers.
the Father. So I
Theirs.
know that I know you were talking about. We were possibly going to see the connection between this could be the connection between Lois Lane and the General.
Correct.
Now after seeing the last episode, I'm wondering if this is going to be in relation to Superman and his Kryptonian heritage.
I think it's going to be both.
Yes.
Because they specifically say fathers, which
Yep.
makes me question that we're going to learn about both of their fathers.
Yes.
And possibly, who knows? Maybe Amanda Waller's kid is Johnny. And I'm not saying it because of race. I'm just saying it in general because what I'm getting at is we just have the fathers, and because he's such an integral part of the team, it would not be all that surprising that they would talk about his dad too. Although it would make more sense that they're only going to focus on Clark and Lois,
Mm.
based on just it's because it's Superman. But overall, very looking forward to that. I'm very curious how it's going to end. And they better have a second season.
They definitely.
Okay.
I mean, personally, this show is good.
It was better than I was
It's
expecting.
definitely, and like after the first couple episodes, like the first two episodes, first no, well, okay,
First
I forgot
three,
because
technically. 'Cause, like the
no,
first,
technically it was technically it was the first five because the first time we were supposed to watch this, someone forgot,
yeah, Mike. So
and we had to watch all five of them together.
I know,
Um,
and Mike, frankly, this is just a recurring behavior from you, and we're very disappointed.
clearly, clearly. So after that first half of the season, like
It got
it
really good.
honestly just like really picked up,
It got good, but
which would make sense.
it just yeah, no, you're right. But it entered the multiverse so quickly in a way that we were not expecting. So we're going to see so much stuff.
And it pulled it off so well.
Yeah, like
But
it didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel fake. It felt like it belonged, which was so weird
yeah,
to think.
yeah, no, but like the first five episodes was actually like it made sense because the first five episodes was setting up the universe,
Hmm.
explaining everything, going, and they went into good detail. Like it, what they didn't, like you said, they didn't rush it. It was just very, okay. This is what's going on. This is what we're doing. This is and then the last five episodes have just tied everything together,
Yeah,
and it's been great.
yeah. All right,
All right, Scott,
we're
what's
gonna
your
move on.
game?
So we're gonna move on to Marvel now. So I have four universes, okay, and I'm only gonna give you their number and a little bit of a hint, and see if you can get the gimmick. Okay.
Okay.
So this one is not one of the ones that I think you would get. Okay. So this is Earth 6141. Okay. And the hint I am giving you is evil.
That's all, literally all I'm getting.
Um. Well, my whole thing is like if I say anything else, I'm giving away a big piece.
Okay.
In my
So
opinion.
my
I'll
okay,
tell you
so my
what my other hint would be after you guess.
okay. Well,
So go ahead, give me a second.
if you're gonna say evil, my guess instantly automatically is gonna go straight to um. This is because of DC, so they're probably not gonna have anything. But my yeah. My guess is gonna be the Nazis won World War II.
That's actually a very good guess. But no. So I'm gonna say mutants.
Oh, the oh, is this the evil? Didn't you do a spotlight hour on this, like Evil Beast? No, no.
Different universe. Different universe.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, different universe. And so basically, we'll say that those were your two guesses.
Yeah.
So no, you would in fact if you would have gotten this like, so I was afraid you were gonna be like oh, evil X-Men, and that's pretty much what this is. So what happens is in 6141 is so the X-Men are formed pretty much the same way they always have been formed, but here's the difference: the Shadow King possesses Charles Xavier, and then founded an evil version of the X-Men known as Shadow X.
Ah.
So there is a character that is very similar, has a similar name to the one I talked about. So it's Professor X, who is actually the Shadow King. There's Dark Cyclops, Dark Marvel Girl, which is basically Jean Grey, Dark Beast, Dark Angel, Dark Iceman, and then supposedly the Shadow King himself, because he's possessing Charles Xavier.
So he's two characters technically.
Yeah, so Charles Xavier exists, but he's being possessed. Shadow King is in control of him.
Okay.
So they create this group called the Shadow X, which are obviously evil versions or an evil version of what we know as the X-Men. And in fact, they try to go to Earth 616 and fought the new Excalibur, which was like their newest version of the X-Men at the time. Um, let's just say they lost, shockingly. So that was actually 6141, and I thought that was interesting because I did talk about Dark Beast, but it's completely different. It has nothing to do with Apocalypse. It has to do with the fact that there's a an ongoing fight that goes on between Charles Xavier versus the Shadow King, and in this particular universe, he loses.
Okay.
And that's
Cool.
and this is where the whole thing comes in. So that's 6141. So now
So I was actually my second guess was actually closer than my first one.
oh 100%, 100%, 100%. Okay, you ready for the next one?
I guess.
This is Earth 3931. All right, I'm gonna give you two chances like I did before. Okay, I'm gonna give a
Alright.
vague hint the first time, and then I'm gonna give a more accurate hint the second time. Okay. Suckers.
So suckers.
hmm
What?
It's gonna. Here's the thing. It's gonna make more sense because Here's the thing. When I give you the second hint, you're going there's if you get it wrong, I'm gonna be very confused.
Oh, well, now the pressure's on, and I know I'm going to get it wrong. So now, okay. Suckers. Let's see, suckers. My first brain goes to um, parasites.
Okay.
There's a parasite that's going around and possessing everybody.
Okay. Okay. Bloodsuckers.
Oh, blood! Oh my god.
And I'm not expecting you to get everything. I'm expecting you to just get the concept of it.
The issue is right now, I'm picturing something, I just can't put it into saying it.
Blood sucking.
Yeah, I know, blood sucking. You said blood sucker, so I'm going with blood sucking. Vampires.
Is that your final answer?
I guess we're gonna go with that.
You're correct. So it's actually,
Good.
so it's actually a universe where is it the Vampire King? So this is where it gets weird. Okay. So, do you know who Baron Blood is? He
That
is.
sounds very familiar.
So he's somebody that's been after Captain America before, and he's a bat-like creature, but he's actually human. Um, in some instances, he's actually a vampire. Other instances, he's not. But overall, most modern interpretations, I believe he's a vampire. And so in this universe, he actually infects Captain America and turns him into the Vampire King, who then infects all the other Avengers, and they are now the Vampire Avengers.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yes. So one of the big things is, though, they are not, stupid as it sounds, they're not good guys, obviously, but they're better than regular vampires. Um, yeah, it gets weird. So hold on, I'm just trying to find it so I can at least make sure because I had it up and it disappears. So it literally is just so what happens is after that the Avengers turn into vampires, and so what happens is they were all killed. I'll tell you that. So what happens is they all get killed, and they literally called themselves the Vampire Avengers.
How original.
I'm PO'd about it. But what kills me is they changed Captain America's name. He no longer was Captain America, he was the Vampire King.
Well, you said the Vampire King is the one who...
Yeah, no. So the Vampire King turned him into the new Vampire King. But my point I'm making is, you get what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. So we had Captain America turn into a vampire, Falcon, Giant Man, which is basically it's Hank Pym, Hawkeye, Polaris, and Wasp. And they were the ones that turned into vampires and then were later killed.
Yeah, okay. So when you were saying this in my head, I'm like, okay. I should have probably put more two and two together with in terms of Marvel has Marvel Zombies. Why wouldn't they have
Well,
vampires as well?
well, they do Blade
Yes. Um,
and Dracula. Dracula is a big heavy hitter in the in the Marvel universe.
okay, that I did not know. So I guess
Oh yeah, no,
I know
Dracula is scary. Like Dracula, like
I know Blade is a vampire, but I'm like it
half.
wasn't like
He's half.
yeah. So like in my head, I'm like he's not like because he's not a full vampire. I'm like okay, is it like kind of like not there's no full vampires, but I should have.
You should know better. Just like there's
Yes.
werewolves too. But no, overall, so they're just not known more. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're not a bigger, they're not mainstream. I guess the best way to put it. But no, Dracula is a badass. Let me tell you. He is also not easy to kill. So this next
Never
universe,
is.
you better. So like you'll know it, but I'm gonna give you very vague hints that I don't think you're gonna get it.
Great.
So this is Earth 10,005.
Jesus.
Trust me when I say there is almost 100,000 universes, so get over it.
I mean, technically, there's supposed to be an infinite number, so
I know, but I only could find there's only apparently 0 through 100,000 right this very second. There's probably a lot more, but they're the only ones that are known. So this particular universe is a cinematic universe, and that is all I'm going to say. You got two guesses, and that's it.
I hate that face you're making right now.
Well, because here's the thing: you're gonna be so mad that you don't get it if you don't, and and my whole thing is like, there are three potential answers that you could say, and none of them would be far off, but only one of them is correct.
Well, I know it's not MCU because MCU is 616.
Correct.
Well, I'm gonna assume that they're like like a film universe.
It's cinematic universe. That's all I'm giving you. And it's Marvel. I'll tell you that. Now, those are your two. Those are your two hints. And frankly, I shouldn't have had to give you the second one.
No, I'm gonna be guessing it's a DC universe.
Actually, they do have that. That does exist in Marvel, by the way. There is one
Does it
that
really?
exists. Oh yeah, there's a crossover one.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, I thought you knew that. No, there is actually a crossover one.
Well, I know that there's like
There's actually
been
multiple.
crossover.
There's more than one. So there's
I know
one
that
where they
there's
met up. There's one where they met up, and then there was one where they actually fused together.
when you say fused together, like what
Like
do you?
it was Wolverine, Batman versus Sabretooth Joker. Like Wolverine and Batman were one character. Sabretooth and Joker were one character. Captain
I'm trying to
America.
I'm trying to remember if I have heard of that or not.
It was a
'Cause
weird
it
one.
sounds familiar.
The more popular one would have been when you saw the two universes fight each other, where Robin and Jubilee were getting it on
Mhm.
because he refused to kill
No,
her.
that I did know about.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was part of Marvel. I thought it was just like its own kind of thing.
Well, so it's technically part of DC too. It's like but Marvel calls it Earth whatever, and it's like part of that universe. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So like it
No.
has its own number,
Mhm.
but it's not this one.
Okay. Okay.
You want the number again
Well,
to see if that helps? Because it doesn't.
10,005 because
Yeah.
it doesn't. I
I
know.
know it doesn't.
I'm gonna just go. You know what? Just the Hollywood universe. I don't know. Just
The
call
what?
it that. I don't know. Hollywood. I don't know.
Name a Marvel cinematic franchise before I slap you.
Marvel Cinematic X-Men.
Thank you. You got it right. This universe is all of the X-Men movies.
Oh. All right. You're saying it's a cinematic universe.
It is. It's its own cinematic universe. So this is specifically X-Men First Class, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, X-Men, X2, X-Men Last Stand, The Wolverine, and X-Men Days of Future Past. That's it. They are not counting Logan because I don't know why. I don't think
So
Logan's
this,
considered part of that.
so so this is supposed to the Fox universe takes place in Earth 10,005.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I
I
didn't know.
understand.
I did not know it even had its own number. It does. Marvel's
I
decided.
understand now.
So you understand
Nice.
what I'm saying? Like out of all of them, that was the only one you would have actually gotten, even though you would have never have. If I didn't say cinematic universe, you would have never guessed that. By the
Well,
way,
I didn't realize that you were literally like I thought like when you were saying like cinematic like the universe, I thought you were talking about like their style is like oh they like everyone is like movies or whatever. So
oh, I mean that
I
might.
didn't realize you were
To be fair, that might exist. I don't know. I couldn't.
yeah.
They were 100,000, Mike. I didn't go read them all. Um,
I didn't realize that you were looking for literally a particular cinematic universe.
well, no, I clicked on it because I was like, because it said X-Men movies is the description. Because I was just like literally skimming through, and I was like, X-Men movies. What is that supposed to mean? It literally was all of the X-Men movies. I was like, oh, now I know. So that was the
Interesting.
only
Oh,
one
okay.
where I felt like you would have actually gotten for obvious
Yeah.
reasons, because it's the only one you actually know, and it's
Yeah.
canon because it's going to supposedly be in the MCU soon. Because of Deadpool 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of if it had already been, but it technically hasn't been.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you the Earth number. It's 18,466, and I'm gonna give you its comic book name. But because I do that, you're gonna have to be a little bit more specific on being correct on it, because it's called the Doom Universe.
The Doom universe.
Yep.
Okay. My instinct is just Doctor Doom takes over the universe.
So you're yes. How? There's a very specific way he does it. So there's a reason why, because I knew if I said Doom Universe, you were gonna get it. But there's a very
Yeah.
specific way he does so. Um,
Does it involve time traveling?
no, surprisingly not.
Oh, okay.
I'll give you one more
Okay.
guess.
Takes out the TVA. Does he? I'm gonna go with something just like out there. He like teams up with like Galactus.
So I'm gonna give it to you, but it's not. He didn't team up with him. He actually controls him.
Wow, I can't believe that I actually got that close.
Yeah, no, no. I was very impressed by it, but I figured because of Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, I felt like there was at least a chance you were going to get it. But that's why I said in
Mhm.
this one, because it's called the Doom Universe, I wanted you to be very specific on it.
Yeah, it
So
makes sense. I
apparently,
literally gave it away.
well, no, it does. But because of that, I wanted you to be much more specific. So in this
Yeah.
universe, Galactus comes, and the Fantastic Four does not actually defeat Galactus. What happens is in their fight and everything else, the thing is devoured. Oh yeah. Yeah. Apparently Galactus likes rocks, but it makes sense because, I mean, he eats planets, so he thought it was a
He
mini
eats
planet.
rocks.
Yeah, so he thought he was a mini planet. So what happens is this destroys the Fantastic Four, literally, and actually Victor Von Doom comes in to save the day, and he actually controls Galactus. So what happens is he now runs the universe, and he's made it clear to Galactus that he can devour all the worlds he wants, but never to Earth. And he controls Galactus on what he does. Like if he needs Galactus to take care of something, he's going to have Galactus take care of something. So one of the other things, okay, is Reed Richards goes crazy because he lost his friend and lost everything, so he disappears. The Silver Surfer retires and gives the power cosmic to Johnny Storm, and he becomes a literal artificial sun. He becomes an artificial. That's how powerful he becomes. He becomes an artificial sun. Now, I say that, but I'm not confident if the other sun was destroyed, because they made it seem like he took over the mantle of the sun, but never where I read that Galactus ate the sun. So like I don't know if he's just as powerful as the sun and he's equivalent to like an artificial sun, or if that was just like their terminology of his power, or if it was a legitimate
Yeah.
job. Um, but anyway, so he takes that role and becomes a herald of Galactus, not by choice. Um, and then apparently, the superhero community rallied together against the invaders, which happens to be the Skrulls that come out later on, and their Sue Storm actually now works for Shield. So in this universe, after the Fantastic Four dismantle, granted the Thing is destroyed, Johnny is a son, and Reed just disappeared. He just like I can't do it anymore and left. Um, Sue actually runs a division in Shield, so they're superhuman or metahuman division. I think they're still called metahumans in this universe. And she actually helps deal with the terrestrial threats. I have to say it that way because she doesn't deal with the galactic stuff. So, we find out that in this universe, we actually have 616 version of the Thing and the Human Torch actually came to this universe with their version of Doctor Doom.
Oh.
So 616 Doom, Thing, and Human Torch come to this universe knowing enough of what's going on. Doom has taken over, has control of Galactus, it's not going well. So Doom 616 teams up with the remaining heroes on Earth, which is actually pretty much all of them. Many of the heroes were not killed. One of the only few that were killed was actually the Thing. Everyone else is pretty much thriving on Earth because Galactus doesn't come and destroy them. But they're worried about the galactic issues of Doom devouring planets. Now, not him specifically, but him controlling Galactus to do so.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is he helps. So he helps the Reed Richards comes. The Reed Richards of that universe comes back, and they all are working on this device together, and they create a device that's I would guess is very similar to Cerebro, because they use Emma Frost to help control it to swap minds with the Doctor Doom of that universe. So it's Emma Frost of the 18466, and she switched minds with her version of Doom. So therefore, she now is in control of Galactus, and she makes a version of Galactus called the Lifebringer. So he's no longer the destruction; he's the life-bringing Galactus.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. And that is pretty much how that universe goes, and we know nothing else after that. So after that happens, I'm assuming that the Doctor Doom in Emma Frost's body is put into prison of some sort, but we know very little of what happens after that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. What's hilarious, though, is Victor Von Doom is not called Victor Von Doom when he comes to that universe. So he calls himself. So at the time of 616 version of Doom, he's calling himself Iron Man at the time. Ironically, I'm hoping, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. But yeah, that's the four universes I picked. The reason why I did this, because I didn't mention it before, and I wanted to, and I didn't, mostly because I forgot. Apparently, Mike is emphasizing the fact that I do that a lot, and I do, but I don't like him bringing it up. So the thing
There's
is,
a lot of things I bring.
yeah, pretty much. So Loki brings up this
at your
new.
expense.
Loki brings up this new thing of we're going to be seeing multiple universes now, or the potential of multiple timelines. So now we have this plethora of universes that exist in the comics, and we could potentially see even small remnants of these universes. Now, granted, these ones that I've touched, the only one that's going to be confirmed to be shown inside the MCU is going to be 10,005, and that's because that's the X-Men universe. Other than that, these universes could be touched upon, but they're probably going to be most likely a passing fancy, meaning like they're going to be like snippets of something that we see, and that's it. But who knows? We could see a character from each universe. We don't know. a lot of stuff can happen, especially with us leading up to Secret War. And we know we're going to see the Beyonder soon. And the Beyonder is a big part of the Secret Wars, along with Kang.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so think of
like
it.
we were talking about.
Think of it like an intergalactic or a multi-dimensional game of chess.
Yeah.
The Beyonder picks his roster, and Kang will pick his. Is where I'm thinking they're gonna go, which I'll be very happy with. Spoiler alert: I'm assuming Kang loses. Although plot twist even more, Kang wins, and we bring back the sacred timeline. Now that would be scary, but
Ooh.
also would make sense though, because then it keeps the one timeline,
That's true.
and will make it
It
more.
really depends. Really, I feel like because I mean, there's still a lot of time before Secret Wars comes in.
Because I don't even think there's a
Might-
date now.
No, because of all these everything going on, it could even be pushed back.
It
even
originally had a 2025 date, end of 2025 was the very when it was first announced. That was the date they were giving. No month, just end of 2025. And now we know for a fact it's been pushed back.
Yeah.
Just like everything
So
else.
they could do.
A lot.
I mean,
And I'm
it
not
could
going to be mad about it.
really. I think now that they're pushing it back, I bet they're gonna look at the success of the multiverse era, of the multiverse saga, and depending on how successful it is, could determine what kind of direction they go in further down the road.
Agreed. I think they're. I don't. I think it would be smarter for them, in the long run, to remove the multiverse at the end of this saga, just because there's going to be way too much going on. It makes sense for this particular moment, but I think once the saga's over and we get to like the cosmic entities that we're supposed to be dealing with in the next epic, I think it would make more sense to have the one timeline. Now, that being said, that does not mean we won't have people from other universes in our universe now. I'm just stating, but there's only going to be one universe or one timeline.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna focus on one bit like we have been, but now it's gonna they like you said
It
they
might
can
be
have
it might be
cameos and all of this stuff.
combination of a few universes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm hearing that because of I'm hearing that after Secret Wars we're gonna have a soft MCU reboot, and
Which
that
they very much what they did after Infinity War.
yes and no. So I think more along the lines of with the reboot is like you said, it'll end the multiverse, and
Oh, so like we get to know the new characters if there are any, but they could potentially
yeah,
be characters we've already met. Like it could be T'Challa's son as Black Panther.
yes.
Um,
But then also we have the fact that they have now bought Fox, so they can bring those X-Men characters into the
also
universe,
true.
and
No,
that
no, no, agreed. But you get what I'm saying. So that like we could finally have Wolverine as part of the Avengers,
yes,
Storm as part of the
uh,
Avengers.
we can. There's a lot of possibilities that they can do.
Well, no, because
Uh,
those two X-Men were like very well known in Shield, and
mhm.
worked a lot. But overall, very much looking forward to it. And now we're going on to our character spotlights. Mike's going to go first because he takes forever, and then I'm going to end it quickly, and then we will be done.
Okay, well, I will try to make sure that this is as short as I can do it.
Please do.
My character this week, we saw in, yet again, similar to my last spotlight, they are a character in My Adventures of Superman. My Adventures with Superman. We made a mistake. The character that we thought Dr. Ivo is, we thought he was a Mazo. He's not a Mazo. He is the Parasite. It makes so much more sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. But continue. It does make a lot more
Um,
sense.
So the Parasite is actually a very common name in the comics, but each version has a very similar power. They have the ability to absorb the life energy and power and knowledge of the person they come in contact with. The most common parasite is Ruby Jones,
Okay.
who mainly is a villain of Superman. But there are a bunch of other versions of him. So I will, I guess, talk about the one version. So in pre-crisis, Raymond Jensen was a lowlife who got a job as a plant worker for a research center. Wrongly believing that the company payrolls were hidden in storage containers, Jensen opened one and was bombarded with energies from biohazard materials, which transformed him into a purple-skinned parasite entity, and thus he became the parasite. Anytime he touched someone, he could absorb their physical and mental properties. Touching Superman would instantly absorb a sizable fraction of his superhuman powers, but he could never absorb all of Superman's powers.
Makes sense.
On one occasion, while attempting to absorb a greater portion of his adversary's power than previously, his body disintegrated, my God, for a period of time due to the pressure in his cells. Despite these abilities, the parasite became depressed because he could no longer embrace his wife and children. The parasite made a number of reappearances before Crisis, but had never been able to defeat Superman. Despite this, he had the knowledge, because of his contact, he gained his knowledge. He knew Superman's alter ego, Clark Kent, and had constantly, throughout their encounters, used that against him.
Okay. Now that's interesting.
Gaining sizable intellect from his multiple encounters with Superman, the parasite devised the means to reanimate dormant plant remains left behind from the Earth 2 Superman villain, Solomon Grundy, creating a newer and stronger version of the creature to plague his adversary.
Ooh.
On another occasion, the parasite devised the means to transfer the powers of the hero Airwave to the young hero adversaries Casey Jones temporarily. The eventual fate of the pre-crisis version of the parasite is kind of touched upon in the series Superman, Whatever Happens to the Man of Tomorrow. Lois Lane is going over what the fates of all of his villains, and she touches on the parasite. She says that the parasite is dead, having died in a fight with his sometimes partner in crime, the Terra Man. She refers to this fight as the clash of egos, and in this fight, they both end up killing each other.
Ooh.
So that is one version. There are a bunch of versions, as I said, that there are many versions of them. The most common version is Ruby Jones, but I touched on the pre-crisis parasite, which is Ruby Jensen.
Oh, okay.
So, powers and abilities. All incarnations of the parasite have the ability to temporarily absorb the life energy, superpowers, and knowledge of their victims through physical contact, and are also able to drain virtually any form of energy and use it as a power source. In particular, Ruby Jones is granted enhanced strength, intelligence, agility, durability, and reflexes by absorbing the energy of other beings. When Jones drains other superpowered individuals, he gains their abilities for a limited period of time until he runs out of life energy and must seek a new victim to feed on. He is shown to have a heightened sense of perception that allows him to detect the life force and powers within other beings. While drawing the energy of ordinary humans is almost instantaneous, it takes a notably longer time in the case of immensely powerful beings, which gives the victims more time to react and free themselves from the parasite's grip. So yeah, when I was watching this episode and I saw the guy absorbing the
I think,
when I saw him absorbing the electricity and absorbing Superman, I was like this isn't Amazo. This is the parasite.
which makes
And
more sense.
yes, it does. And it actually made me think of, because I watched one of the DC movies. It was The Man of Tomorrow, and when he was absorbing the powers and becoming so tall, that's when it really clicked in my head because I was like, that looks exactly like the creature from that movie. And then I was like, that's because it is the same
It's
creature.
supposed to be the same one. All right, you ready for mine?
I am.
So, what has been my theme for these past 2 episodes?
Talking about Loki.
Yep, and this is no different. This is Justice Love. Justice Love is an agent of the TVA. And Justice Love lives up to her name, well, her first name anyway, since she has no love for time violators. That's an actual quote, and I cannot make that up. That's not something
I
I made
hate
up.
you.
It's not something I made up. I just made it worse with my with how I acted
You
it.
did. You
So
did
she's a
not make it any better.
she's a dedicated agent of the TVA, and she catches those who've committed crimes against the time stream. Now, this is where it gets weird. She has a mysterious origin, so not much is known about her Love's origin, only that she's worked for the TVA to catch criminals and prosecute them. She is a skilled markswoman. She has an exceptionally quick reflex and is a skilled markswoman, which I just said. She wears an energy enhanced Union skin uniform. Love's helmet is apparently connected to the cybernetic right eye that analyzes the iris distension and cross checks visual purple light waves to analyze the truth from others. Though she wields at least 2 TVA-issued handguns, she also wields a gauntlet that contains a computer and fires projectiles able to freeze signatures and making them out of sync with the given time frame, unable to be affected by TVA cannons designed to eradicate anyone from history. She is a time. So she is. Justice Love brings Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, when she violates time law. She also acts as the prosecutor during She-Hulk's trial, calling for the maximum sentence. Despite the judges agreeing with her, when the supervillain Clockwise attacks everyone at the trial, She-Hulk helps save the day, and Love must watch as she is shown leeway because of this. She's worked for the TVA as kind of a police officer alongside her co-worker, Justice Peace, and other justices. And she follows the TVA's orders to a T and has no middle ground when it comes to dispelling justice. Alongside Justice Peace, she's presided over the trial of temporal infractor Charles Travoix, forcing him to complete his own temporal loop and be shot by his past self over and over again. That is awful. Love alerted the TVA that Love alerted the TVA that it was a mistrial, and Peace then arrested She-Hulk for trying to alter the past by warning Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, of his apparent upcoming death. While escorting She-Hulk to her time violation trial, Love chastised her for breaking the time laws, and at trial, Love acted as the lead prosecutor, which I just said. And she wanted the maximum sentence, which I already talked about, but she wanted the maximum sentence was erasure from history, so to remove her from existence completely. When Love had enough of the trial, she took She-Hulk 2 years into her future to show her the Reckoning War, a war that spread across the cosmos, and that She-Hulk caused because of the events. Observing the events and then returning to the TVA, She-Hulk accepted the full sentence to be erased from history. But obviously, Clockwise came in and interrupted the whole thing. And what was then done was she was actually... the judges granted her leeway despite the siding with Love earlier. She-Hulk's allies then brought in all the people she helped over the years as a character witnesses, which allowed the judges to make sure that she was a unique and irreplaceable being if whom were removed would threaten the entire continuum. So like they were basically stating that in this trial they were showing why She-Hulk was so important that she couldn't be deleted from existence.
Oh, okay.
So Justice Love, Justice Peace, and all these other justices are apparently like the lawyers and captors of the TVA. They go in, capture the criminals, and then prove to the judges why this person needs to be obliterated from existence. I don't think we're going to see this character in the MCU. We potentially could, but I definitely don't think we're going to see it in this season of Loki, only because we're not so focused on the TVA in this season. We're focused more on this particular variant of Kang.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I was about to ask if we had seen these characters in yet because the name sounds familiar.
Potentially, but unclear.
Mm.
They could have been the ones that were prosecuting him, Loki, in the trial, but I can't say for sure because they was never confirmed.
Yeah. Okay.
But overall, that is my character spotlight. So thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time and everything else. In our next podcast, we're going to be talking about the next two episodes of Ahsoka. We're going to be talking about the last episode of My Adventures with Superman, and we're going to be talking about Groot.
Yep. I was about to say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
watch
I had to
podcast.
double check the calendar, but I believe Groot will be out then. So we'll be talking about all that in the next podcast. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. But this is going to be Scott and Mike signing out. Have a great night.